Hi everyone, I hope you are doing really well. Welcome to 11th November Insights Daily Decodes, where we decode the Hindu newspaper. So the thought for the day is, don't let the noise of others' opinions drown out your own inner voice. So this was said by Steve Jobs, and it is relevant today, it would be relevant tomorrow, and even it was relevant in the past also. So if you keep listening to what others are talking about you and you degrade yourself, then that is not good, that is not at all good what you're doing to yourself. This is generally happening in today's generation, where we see that we are looking for instant validation from others. It can be from your relatives, it can be from your friends, it can be from your loved ones. And when we don't get that instant validation, we try to degrade ourselves. It is important that you don't degrade yourself. Most important person is you, and you need to improve. What you were yesterday, you need to be better than that. Yes, some of the opinions can matter, but the most important thing is that people who really matter to you, they would be constructive critique of yours. They would be telling you the ways also in which you can improve. So don't degrade yourself on the basis of what some of your relatives are saying, because they are not going through your journey. Your journey is very different. Your journey is very different from others. Probably you will take, some people would be able to clear the UPSC examination in 1 year or 1.5 years or 2 years, and your journey might take it 4 years or 5 years. So be very consistent on your journey, keep working hard, and the goal will be yours. So with this positive thought, let's come to the important news for today. France evaluating India's Pinaka rocket system, that is an MBRL system, that is multi-barrel rocket launcher system. Sri Lankan president promises return of Tamil land grabbed by state agencies. This is the president Anura Dissanayake. So he's talking about returning of Tamil land. So a very positive news coming from Sri Lanka, and specifically for Sri Lankan Tamils, calling out exploitative labor dynamics on platform. This is related to gig workers, and as you know, the UPSC is focusing a lot on gig workers, and this particular editorial or this news article is also related to specific women gig workers and what are their conditions. So very, very important. Then editorial, states and centers fetter on net borrowing ceilings. So this is NBC ceiling So NBC ceiling is at 3% of the gross state domestic product, and Kerala and the center are having a fight over it, and now Supreme Court would be looking over the Article 293 under the judicial review. Then UPSC prelims impact, what is Article 292, 293, this is related to this editorial only. Q&A, tidbits and extra mile. In tidbits we have 3 to 4 important news, we'll cover this. So let's move to the first important news. France evaluating India's Pinaka rocket system for its use. So wonderful news coming. So India has already sold the Pinaka system, the MBRL system, to Armenia. Now France is also showing interest in this system. So France is considering India's Pinaka multi-barrel rocket launching system for its military requirement. Detailed evaluation of Pinaka system will be conducted in the coming weeks, and India is among the 3 to 4 potential providers for this type of rocket system. So France already has one of the system which they want to replace. Some of these systems have been deployed in the Ukraine, so they want to replace it with the Pinaka system. Okay, so Pinaka is what? It is an indigenously developed MBRL multi-barrel rocket launcher. If you can see, multi-barrel rocket launchers. So multiple rockets can be launched, and it can be used to decimate the opponent or decimate the enemy, be it in the open ground or complexes or the military complexes. It can be used to decimate them. So with the first international sales to Armenia marking a significant export success, and this was designed by, from prelims point of view, an important fact, ARDE, that's a laboratory under DRDO. What is ARDE? Armament Research and Development Establishment. Apart from that, Indian Army currently has 4 regiments of Pinaka, and they want to expand it, and they would be adding 6 additional regiments are on the order. This also tells you about that Pinaka is a wonderful and a very capable system, that from 4 regiments now the Indian Army is expanding it to 6. Armenia has already bought it, and France is also showing interest in it. This also shows that our indigenous defense equipment making capabilities are increasing day by day, which shows that we are on the right path to become a superpower. Why do I say to become a superpower? a superpower country is not that who would be, you know, importing their weapons. So if you want to become a defense exporting country, if you want to make your own weapons, and tomorrow if a war happens, you need to make your own weapons and not be dependent on America, Russia, France or Israel. Today we are, tomorrow we should not be. So in this context, it is very important. So Khushbu Khan, good evening. Akhil Babu, good evening to everyone. Wonderfully that you've joined the lecture today. Please share, like the lecture, and do press the bell icon so that you can get the notification of the lecture, and all the link of this PDF has been given in the description. Once the lecture is over, you can go through the PDF for your revision, for the revision of today's news, the prelims related question, the mains related question and everything. Now moving on to the news, before I move more into the news, certain basic facts regarding the Pinaka. So Pinaka Mk1 has the range of 38 kilometers, supports various ammunition types. And what is a Pinaka? It is a lethal and responsive fire. So it can, if there are troops which are in the open, they can be decimated. Armored and soft vehicles, communication center, air terminal complexes, military complexes, fuel and ammunition dumps, they can all be targeted through this MBRL system, multi-barrel rocket system, rocket launcher. This is what is Pinaka is. And Pinaka, we have already, India is working on the upgradation. So the range of Pinaka Mk1 is around 48 kilometers. 38 kilometers, and the Pinaka Mk, rather it has been extended. Pinaka Mk1 has enhanced a range of 60 kilometers, and the Pinaka Mk2 has a range of 90 kilometers. So this is Pinaka, different versions, and currently we are also working on Pinaka Mk3. So what is Pinaka Mk3? It is the advanced versions, and under Mk3 you will have two versions. And if you see, the first variant will have a range of 120 kilometers. If you see in the Mk1, the range was around 38 to 48 kilometers, then 60 kilometers, and Mk2 had the range of 90 kilometers. So around 38 to 48, then moving to 60 kilometers, then to 90 kilometers. But if you move, so if you move to Pinaka Mk3, the range is moving to 120 kilometers. This is Pinaka Mk3 first version. Second version will have a range of 300 kilometers, more than 5,500 kilometers per hour of speed, capability to attack distant enemies in air attacks, and it can operate in any weather, making an all-weather equipment. So in this, so it will have a speed of 57.70 kilometer per hour. So it would be attacking on a long distance, that is 300 kilometers, 120 kilometers. So from 38 to 48, then to 60, then to 90, then to 120, then to 300 kilometers. So we are making a spectrum of distances and speeds, and as per the enemy, we will be attacking them. Now, France would be replacing its M270 system. Lance Rockets Unitaire, that is LRU system, would be replaced, and that is what their system that is what the system they are looking for. They would be replacing this system. Some of these systems have been used in the Ukraine war, so they want to replace it. And India-France defense cooperation. So Brigadier General Rachau has said that the importance of India-France defense relations is very important, and he has invited the current Indian Army Chief of Army Staff France for enhanced bilateral engagement, and cooperation between India and French Air Forces navies is robust. Multiple exercises keep happening between our forces and the French forces from the point of sharing equipments, understanding the top tech equipments, interoperability, etc. Recent and upcoming bilateral army exercises, I beg your pardon for that. Exercise Shakti, the 7th edition took place in Meghalaya in May 2024, and the next edition to set focus on would be on high altitude warfare. Now high altitude warfare is very important. If you see what we were doing in Galwan is also high altitude warfare, okay. Siachen is also high altitude warfare, and Indians are very good in this. So domains of Indian France Army cooperation, these 4 pointers, they can also be used. These 4 pointers can also be used if you are talking about India-France defense relationship. So capability development from both the force sizes, education, information and training is also happening between both the forces, emphasis on joint training programs to understand this. Equipment collaboration, that means sharing and evaluation of defense equipment with both share, be it from the point of view of Navy, army or the air force. Understanding between the senior leadership, how the tri-services leadership of India and tri-services leadership of France, or the defense forces of France, the top leadership, how both of them can come to a common conclusion, what they think in terms of what are the major threats to the world, what are the major equipments required. So brainstorming on the higher level and strengthening ties at the leadership level, because if the top levels are at the leadership level and they are tied, they are understanding each other, it would have a very positive ripple effect on India-France defense ties. Global geopolitical context is also there. So recently there was 20th Army to Army staff talk, and India and France both contribute to UNIFIL. If you remember, UNIFIL is United Nations Interim Forces Lebanon. So when the Spain Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez was in India, we had covered that in Daily Decodes. So you can go there. There I had also covered what is UNIFIL, and there was a huge contribution of forces, more than 900 troops. India is contributing 903, France is contributing, and Spain is contributing. And we had criticized the action of Israel, what they were doing against the UNIFIL forces. Okay, so Brigadier General Richow noted that France allies with India on the importance of international law, especially in Lebanon and ongoing regional tensions involving Hezbollah. And what came out of the 16th BRICS summit at Kazan also, there also the document which came out, it was very critical of Israel's role, what is happening in Gaza, not specifically UNIFIL. So UNIFIL, the Israel actions which are being, the destructive actions which Israel is taking, and some of the troops which have got injured of UNIFIL. So Israel has been harshly criticized by the European countries, United Nations, and including India, in terms of that the Israel need to follow the global UNIFIL laws. Ongoing India-France defense ties, this is something which is ongoing. 26 Rafale M fighter jets are in the pipeline, and their additional Scorpion, three Scorpion submarines class for the Indian Navy. So 3 additional Scorpion class submarines, Rafale M fighters, around 26 of them. These are in the pipeline, so advanced negotiations are happening. But the most important among them is this one. That is developing a jet engine for India's Advanced Medium Combat Aircraft, AMCA. Now why this is important? This is important because the jet engines which need to come from the GE company from America, they have been delayed like anything under the Joe Biden presidency. Since the Trump has come, I think the coming of engines would be fast, because I've told you in the previous lectures also, when it comes to Donald Trump, the president of America, though he will take everything, the oath and everything, formalities will be completed by January. He is a businessman. His focus on he would be more and happy to do the TOT, transfer of technology, sell high class weapons, which basically increases the economy and make relation between India and America in terms of defense ties better. So I think the engines should come faster, but let's see what Trump idea would be on those engines. Now those engines under the Joe Biden presidency, they had become very slow. They were not coming on the time, and that is why France had offered that they are ready to develop a jet engine for India's Advanced Medium Combat Aircraft. I think in the coming 3 or 4 months, apart from France, America would also come back in this race. And I told you earlier also, India is also looking for 112 multi-role fighter aircrafts, MMCA. So multi-role combat aircraft. So I think America would also be trying that they get these weapons. So Pinaka Mk1 has a range of 38 to 48 kilometers. Pinaka system was first exported to Armenia. Pinaka system was developed in collaboration with Russia. No, it is indigenously developed. So first and second statements are correct. Now let's move to the question. Discuss the significance of India's Pinaka MBRL system in bolstering India's defense export capabilities and impact on India-France defense ties. So a lot of information is there. You can use it to answer the question. Let's move to today's next news. New Sri Lankan president vows to return Tamil land grabbed by state agencies. So this was some of the statements he had also said during the elections also, when the presidential elections were happening. He is the new and the current president of Sri Lanka, Anura Disanaike, and he promises to return Tamil's land and other reforms. And these lands which has been taken by the forest and the archaeology departments, Sri Lankan Tamils have been continuously, this was one of their important demands, and Anura Disanaike is saying that these lands would be given back to them. So he made this announcement at a public rally in Jaffna and Sri Lanka's Tamil majority northern province. So obviously provincial elections will happen soon in Sri Lanka. Now how much Anura Dissanayake really means it, only time will tell, but at least it's a good start that he is talking about it. And the party, so Anura Dissanayake comes from JVP party. If you go back in the JVP party's past, so it was a Marxist revolutionary party and it was against the Tamil rights, but over a period of time it has changed itself, it has revamped itself, it has given up some of the Marxist and the revolutionary ideas, and today they are in favor of Tamil rights. So over a period of time, hence since they have come in the mainstream politics, lot of changes has been done in the political parties so that they can appeal to today's masses. So he assured the crowd of provincial and local elections soon, promising that Tamil majority area could elect their own leaders. So this is a good news, but he has not, he is not categorically using the word the greater power and devolution of ethnic question, and more power would be given to the Tamil leaders or Tamil people. So straight away he has not said this, but even during the presidential election he was talking about change in the constitution to give more rights to Sri Lankan Tamils. So at least the president is talking about, so that is what we can buy for now. What actually the Sri Lankan president Anura Dissanayake will do, only time will tell, but at least he is talking about it. So he's proposed a new constitution, or new constitution rather than changes, a new constitution which can encompass what the Sri Lankan Tamils are asking. Now, Dissanayake acknowledges limited support, specifically the support he has got in Jaffna, his improved efforts in Tamil majority region. Since he is getting that support, he is acknowledging it, and he is saying that whatever be the problems specifically the Sri Lankan Tamils are having, I would be trying to rectify it apart from the constitutional issues which will take a little bit of time. So he emphasized unified national identity, be you are a Buddhist or a Tamil, there should be unification. He invited the Tamil community to help transform the political culture of Sri Lanka, which is highly dominated by the Buddhist community. And if you see the Rajapaksa government in the past, it was all dominated by one family, not even different people. It was different people of a political party. It was a political party dominated by one family, and that family had all the portfolios in the Sri Lankan government. He spoke against divisive politics, expressing his vision to prevent the recurrence of war. That is basically the Tamil war which had happened, he's talking about what happened in Sri Lanka, the Sri Lankan crisis, the LTT war and everything. Okay, recurrence of war by building trust across the community so that Sri Lanka does not go back in the past in the genocide which happened against the Sri Lankan Tamils by the Sri Lankan forces and government. Focus on socio-economic development, address critical Tamil concerns. So what are the basic Tamil concerns? Revitalize industry, job creation, tackle drug abuse which is happening in Jaffna and northern province where the Sri Lankan Tamils are very high in number. He pledged support for farmers and fish folk, and he has condemned illegal fishing by Indian trawlers as per him which enter the Sri Lankan waters, and they take the Sri Lankan fishes. So which impacts the local marine ecosystem and Tamil fishermen livelihoods. So Tamil fishermen here means he is talking about Sri Lankan fishermen. Growing support from the Tamil community. This was the past. Many Tamilians, Sri Lankan Tamils, they never used to support this party, the JVP. JVP stands for Janata Vimukti Peramuna. Now, over a period of time, it has changed its stance. It is now pro-Tamil. Initially, it was against the Tamil rights. It was Marxist, revolutionary in nature, but today it has changed. And you can see that in the statement of the President Dissanayake, and this is wonderful news which is coming. I hope that the Sri Lankan Tamils are able to get the security, their rights, be it the right of jobs, industries, a new constitution come which can give them more devolution of power. That would be wonderful. So Janta Vimukti Peramuna, this is a basic of this political party. If you want to understand, I have added this in PDF. You can go through this information also. So discuss the significance of President Anura Kumar Dissanayake promise to the Tamil population in Sri Lanka and fostering ethnic reconciliation and socio-economic development. See, if this happens, this would also have a very positive ripple effect on India-Sri Lankan relationship also. So that is also a context on this particular question. Let's go to the next news. Calling out exploitative labor dynamics on platform. calling out exploitative labor dynamics on platform. This is a wonderful article specifically related to gig workers, and in gig workers also special focus has been given in this article on women gig workers. Nobody talks about them, and there's a word which is used out here which I want to write also, that is called digital patriarchy. Now this is a wonderful word, and since UPSC has a habit of asking these kind of words, what is digital patriarchy, explain digital patriarchy, so this was used. So there's a context to it, we'll decode in the coming slides. So let's move. So calling out exploitative labor dynamics on platform, India's first nationwide digital strike by women gig workers. So this nationwide strike was done by women gig workers. So this is a huge step from empowerment point of view, from taking a step in the right direction for women gig workers, asking for their rights. From a democracy point of view, this is also wonderful news. So the strike was termed Black Diwali, received a significant media coverage and public support from worker and citizen forums. Now what happens is that these news might not come in the front of the papers, or might skip because there's already geopolitically other news are happening, but even then many media houses were able to cover it, and it's a wonderful thing that we are hearing and reading about it. So India's first nationwide digital strike by women gig workers, and most importantly it took place on Deepavali, it took place on Diwali. So organized by Gig and Platform Services Worker Union. So for short form you can remember them as GIPSU. Okay, you can remember them as GIPSU or GIPSWU, it's easy to remember. Gig and Platform Services Worker Union, and the strike was basically to attempt to highlight the problems of gig workers. There are no labor laws, and how these organizations, like who are gig workers? Gig workers are, like, in a very simple way, your Swiggy delivery person, Zomato delivery person, your parcel delivery person, these are example of your gig workers. So they don't have any PF, they don't have any, they are not permanently employed by the organization, and because of that they are a labor market where occupants are temporary contracts or freelance worker rather than full-time employment. When you get full-time employment, the company has to take care of you. There are multiple laws of company laws which are put on the company, but since they are on contracts, these contracts are very manipulative in nature, and they are they use gig workers in the best of their way. The company use these workers to best of their advantage, and these gig workers get very less salaries, and their wage is also very low, and these wages and salaries which are low, on this part only you get better discount. This is what this has been said in this particular news. So strike was an attempt to highlight and protect exploitative labor practices. So these companies like Zomato, Swiggy, or bigger companies which employ these gig workers, they exploit these gig workers because they don't have any labor rights, and even if they don't want to work, since the labor market is so big, so much of labor is available, so much of cheap labor is available, even if they decide that they don't want to work, more and more people are available because India, we have a cheap labor market. So within the gig economy, specifically aimed at achieving solidarity among gig workers and users, that gig workers should come together, make union together, so that they can put their demands either against these organizations. If they are not listening, they can go to courts, but there has to be a cohesive force. One single worker or 10 gig workers, many organizations might not listen, but same this 1 to 10 becomes 10,000 or 10 lakh, then it becomes a very potent force, and then they can put their demands against these organizations. So if they can cohesively come and make this union, it will definitely work in their favor and getting their rights. So labor exploitation is happening. So platform companies are accused of exploiting labor laws, and since they have big lawyers and CA, they are able to exploit it, and small gig workers or these gig workers with piddly income, they are not able to do anything, and state and center has also not helped gig workers in enforcing their rights, coming from center or state against these companies. So using incomprehensible AI-driven algorithms to control and manage worker has been done. And now the most important allegations against these companies is that discounted service which we get offered by these platforms are often funded by cutting into workers' income, resulting in substandard wages and poor working conditions. So they say that the company maintains its profits, the higher management gets all the money, but the entire discount is coming from these gig workers whose salary is already very piddly or already very low. So rather than the higher management of the company cut some of its profits and increase their wages, they are not ready to do it, but they are just ready to exploit the cheap labor. And since this cheap labor is getting exploited, and that exploitation is giving us more discounts. Please remember, these are the allegations put by them. What the companies are saying, that is not been part of the article. So this is what they have said. So I'm putting this in front of you. Okay. Now, startups' rapid growth is largely attributed to that they exploit this cheap labor, and secondly, they have substantial venture capitalist funding. Since they have a lot of funding, and because of these two, cheap labor and venture capitalist funding, they don't have exactly the right pathway. How will they become profitable? So this I don't agree totally, because see, any company, how it will become profitable, every company tries, and there's a different path to do it. Okay, so Amazon took so much of time to become profitable. Certain companies get break even profitable within 2 years or 3 years. So this part is right, exploiting cheap labor, substantial funding from without sustainable profit model. See, the profit models which we are trying, see, India, the startup culture, it's only, if you say 10 years or 15 years, not even 15 years, around 10, 12 years. How this sustainable model, see, before the COVID, the amount of funding, during COVID and before COVID, the amount of funding which was coming in India was very high. But after COVID, the funding has reduced. Companies, the venture capitalists are asking more of these profit models. How would you do it? And so this, every country passes through this phase, that initially you will get a lot of funding, new startups would be coming, and eventually you will start looking for profit models, how the companies will get listed or how an IPO will come. So it takes time. So this part is right, but every company will have a profit model, and even if you give a profit model, there is no guarantee that you will get profit out of it, because this is everything working on the market forces. During the COVID time, if you see, the edtech companies were rising. After the COVID, you saw what happens with them. So it keeps revolving. It depends on the market forces. If Russia-Ukraine war and Israel-Iran war would have not happened, amount of money coming to India or in the world would be higher, because economically the world would have been stable. But that's not the case right now because of two wars. So geopolitically, economically, diplomatically, there are multiple factors which can help a business break apart from the business leadership and their individual decision. So controversial exchange highlighting how CEOs are praised as wealth creators while ignoring the contribution of gig workers. This is a right point. See, the CEO or the management or the top founders, they are definitely visionaries. There are no doubt about it, that who thought about, creating Ola, Uber, Amazon, Flipkart, and all these big companies, Zomato, Swiggy. It's a wonderful thing, Paytm, or for that matter, PhonePe, etc. But at the same time, if they are the visionaries or the wealth creators, same are the gig workers also. Since we are talking about the gig economy, which are related to Amazon, Flipkart, and all these companies, or Zomato, Swiggy. So in this context, if they are the visionaries, these are also wealth creators. The problem is that we are only talking about certain CEOs which come and they do podcasts. It's good that they are doing podcasts, they are helping other people. But at the same time, if the CEO can also get these workers and talk about their problems, that would be wonderful encapsulation from the top head to the bottommost. Like we have seen the Zomato CEO, you might have seen that certain times he wears his dress and he becomes, deliver food. So that is good, from the optics point of view, but it would be great that if he can talk to these gig workers, address their problems, call them on some podcast, or if some business idea can be taken from them, or if all feasible, I mean to say. So in that context, then it would become very equal in nature. Okay, so Zomato example I was giving because it was all over Twitter or X. Now, women in the gig economy, patriarchal bias in job assignments. So women are being only assigned the feminine jobs. So already the male and female already problems are going on, but in women it's digital patriarchy. So they will only get roles like beautician, cooks, or housekeepers, like, if you talk about urban clap. So in urban clap, if you see, women are majorly getting these roles. And with job security depending on customer ratings and acceptance of auto assign task. See, when it comes to customer ratings, I beg to differ a bit here, because when it takes to customer ratings, it is not only about gig workers, it is across the digital agencies which are happening. Many digital agencies are fired, many YouTuber handlers are fired because if the ratings are going less, and multiple actions are taken, because this is how the world we are in. We are in digital world today. So yes, this is a problem. It can be it can be tackled better, but ratings, testimonials, this is the future we are living in. So refusal of task can lead to illegal termination. This is a problem which should be tackled, that if you are not taking a task, there might be a bad customer, or there can be other issues which for example, when we cancel when we are cancelling on a Uber, we have booked a Uber car, and when we want to cancel, so we get 5-6 options. Similar options can be given to them, if not given till now. Blocking from the platform, exploitation of vulnerable workers. Now this is a problem which is happening, that these big companies already know that most of these women, either they are divorced, or they have been single mothers, divorcees, or survivors of domestic abuse, who rely on these jobs due to limited alternatives. And since once the company gets to know, they try to use their vulnerability against vulnerability to exploitation. So this has to be tackled, and for this you need labor laws for gig workers, and state and center needs to see it. Misleading autonomy, the promisable or flexible working hours. So the promise given by companies that flexible working hours, you can work on your own, but actually these are not flexible working hours, these are stretchable working hours. Rather than, for example, 9 to 6, you are even working more than that. And increased pressure and unrealistic targets with additional cost, which the gig worker has to pay. Transportation service fee, reducing earnings. If you remember, a news came, I think around 2-3 days back, that a person worked for around 12 hours or 20 hours during the Diwali day. He was a gig worker, and for Zomato, and he just earned 200 or 300 rupees. So this also poses an ethical question to us, that for someone happiness, for us happiness, might be that we are getting food, we are spending thousands and thousands of rupees, and for the other person, he's just making 250 rupees, and that too traveling on Deepavali. Deepavali, we generally celebrate that all family will come together, celebrate it. But at the other end, ethically, it also poses a question, and how does company look into it, that you are making that person right from, pillar to post, and just getting 200 or 300 rupees. Some question which the company needs to answer. And even the government needs to look into it. Systematic failure and lack of regulation. State has failed to enforce labor law rightly, effectively. Exploitative practices I've already covered, and this is the part I wanted to talk about. Digital and patriarchal exploitation. Women in gig economy faces a new form of exploitation combining digital patriarchy, because they are doing those roles only, housekeeper, cook, or beauticians, with traditional societal norms limiting their access to fair treatment and wages. So this takes me back to those debates which used to happen in the early 1990s or 2000s, that women can only do 3-4 roles, which or 2-3 kind of jobs. They can only be women role is only to sit inside the home. So this thought, over a period of time, we thought that when the digitization would happen, there would be no digital patriarchy, but it is still continuing. Okay, so it says leading to profound economic exploitation. That is exactly what is happening, digital and patriarchal exploitation. So contradictory social campaigns. Today the government talks about Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao. It's good, the central government is talking, but in reality, on ground, the reality is very different. These are good campaigns for television, or good campaigns for example, votes. And not only I'm talking about the central government, similar campaigns for pro-women, pro-girl education, they have been run by all state and central governments to get the vote bank, and probably even from a very good point of view that they genuinely want to help. But the problem is, the reality is far different. When it comes to the women gig workers, nobody is even talking about their rights, and this is the first time you are hearing that a first nationwide strike is happening. So disconnection between public policies and actual labor condition, this can be a good UPSC question, means that there's a huge disconnection between public policies and actual labor condition for women, and gig women workers are one of the examples for it. So GIPSU's long-term strategy, power of grassroots organization, worker solidarity, and if they can get some kind of law which can help them, that would be wonderful. GIPSU's future plans include continuous advocacy of labor rights, focusing on policy and regulatory challenge to protect gig workers. Strike serves as inspiration globally, and action by gig workers is possible and effective. For some kind of support from state and center comes. Some companies also take some proactive support to these gig workers, men and women both, and specifically women, in terms of this digital patriarchy. That would be wonderful. Okay. So mains question: discuss the significance of India's first nationwide digital strike by women gig workers in highlighting exploitative labor dynamics on platform. What are the potential implications of such movement for labor reforms in the gig economy? So it's a good question. And second, when it comes to Beti Padhao, Beti Bachao, this particular, which Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, highlighting a disconnection with public policies and actual labor gig workers. So this is also one of the questions which can be asked. Let's move to today's editorial, that is states and centers fetter of net borrowing ceiling. So this is a tussle which is going between Kerala and center related to the NBC net borrowing ceiling. So let's move on to that. But before we move into this, we need to understand some important article, that is Article 292, Article 293 and the 4 clauses related to it. Okay, so Article 292, it grants the central government the power to borrow on the security of the Central Consolidated Fund of the India. So see, 292 allows the central government, the power to borrow on the security of their Consolidated Fund of India at the central level. Similarly, at 293, Article 293 says that states can borrow money from their state consolidated fund. So allows state governments to borrow within India on the security of their consolidated fund. That means their state consolidated fund. So 292 center can borrow, 293 state can borrow. Now 293 clause 2 says that the center can impose condition on loans it provides to states. So if the state are asking for loan or money from center, they would put that these conditions are applied. If you fulfill these conditions, you can take a loan. Like if we go on a bank, it says that I will give you 10 lakh rupees, but you have to give collateral, or your bank statements, or you need to have a decent bank statement, you need to have in the last 6 months they'll check your bank account, etc., etc. Similarly, they can also put some conditions. Okay. Article 293 clause 2. Now state asking for an additional loan. For example, they have got a loan, but now they say that we need additional loans. State needing additional loans and guarantees from the center require center consent to borrow further. So for example, they wanted 100 crore of loans, they got it. Now they want 200 crore more. So they wanted 100 crore, say the state center has given them. Now they want plus 200, or say 300 crores they want. Extra 300 currents, more borrowing. Now center consent, or center will need to say yes, then only they can borrow. This is Article 293 clause 3. Now what is Article 293 clause 4? It gives the center discretion to impose condition on borrowing by state under certain circumstances. So if the state wants money, so under certain circumstances, center discretion to impose conditions. So the borrowing condition can be put by center that if you fulfill these conditions, then only you can get the money. So this is Article 292, 293 clause 2, clause 3, clause 4. And when it comes to Article 293, this has been taken from Government of India Act 1935. So this Article 293 was adapted from Section 163 of Government of India Act 1935. But there is one change in this. When in the actual Government of India Act 1935, it said it prevented arbitrary delay or refusal by federation, that means center in today's term, in granting loans. So section 1634 of the clause 1935 Act prevented that there should not be any delay, there should not be refusal from center to give these amount of money or loans, whatever the state is asking. But this particular parameter was not taken or adopted by our constitution. This provision was not retained in the today's constitution. Okay. So I hope you understood till here. So moving forward on this, Article 293, borrowing powers of state. So what is the borrowing powers of states? I've already explained to you central government's role. Central government can give loans, states. So this is just an additional information on this. And Supreme Court orders so reduced borrowing limit. So center reduced Kerala's net borrowing ceiling within the set fiscal responsibility budget management act limits, which said that it should be 3% of the gross state domestic product. And since Kerala was crossing, and that is why this they were crossing this ceiling, the loan amount they were asking, the fund is not being given by the state, fund is not being given by the center. So effectively limiting the amount of money Kerala could borrow in given financial year. So center is saying that we need to maintain the borrowing, we need to maintain the fiscal deficit. It has to be 3% of state gross domestic product, state GDP. In that terms, Kerala is not, Kerala is crossing that amount of 3%. That is why we are not able to give money. Center argued that the Kerala had exceeded its borrowing limit in the previous financial year, justifying a reduction for the current year, and hence they are not getting the money. So now coming to the news, since I have told you what is Article 292, what is Article 293, several clauses, and what has happened in Supreme Court. So what I just told you about Supreme Court, that was around April 2024 it was happening. Now we are again seeing this news in November 2024. What is Daily Decode? Full fun. Daily Decode is that every day we analyze the Hindu newspaper in detail, editorial and various other news which you can join, and where you can comprehensively understand various news in detail. So state and center fetter for net borrowing ceiling, Article 293 we have already done. So in 2023, central government imposed net borrowing ceiling that on the state of Kerala, limiting its borrowing to 3% of gross state domestic product. So GSDP for financial year 2023-2024. Now Kerala has not been able to maintain it, and since they are not been able to maintain it, they are not able to get funds and loan from the center. Now NBC covers all type of borrowings, market loans, loans from financial institution, and liabilities from the state public accounts. So Kerala's challenge to NBC restriction has led to a case before the Supreme Court, making the first instance where Article 293 is under the judicial scrutiny. This is wonderful. This is, I need to say, this is wonderful from the point of view of understanding the center-state relation in terms of the financial help or the loans or the money which is being provided by center using the Article 293 and various clauses and the current ceiling. So now Supreme Court would be looking into it, and they would be coming with some suggestions or answer on this. So the center talks about FRBM, Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act and amendments, and it says that we need to be fiscal responsible, and Kerala is not following it. So FRBM Act 2003 and its 2018 amendment talks about promote fiscal discipline. See, fiscal deficit is, for example, when your expenditure is much more than your revenue. That means when your when expenditure is much more than your earnings, that basically in terms of state or in terms of country becomes fiscal deficit. And if your fiscal deficit keeps rising, that is not good for the economy, be in terms of GDP, be in terms of holistic or comprehensive economy. It is not at good, and it can lead to lot of failures later on. So that is why most of the countries worldwide try to keep their fiscal deficit to 3 to 3.5%, around these numbers. And that is why India is talking about 3% of gross state domestic product. Now Kerala is not able to follow this. States were encouraged to enact their FRBM laws, aligning with central target for fiscal responsibilities. Center said 3% of this, 3% of the GDP of the state GDP should be there, and they asked either the state make laws or you come parallel to us. So Kerala argues that NBC as a part of fiscal consolidation infringes on state fiscal autonomy. So Kerala is basically saying that many states might require more money. They might need to borrow more money, and this center's rule that this should be acted by state, this is infringing on state independence on fiscal autonomy. Let the state decide it should be 3% or 3.5% or 4%. Center is saying that this way it can go haywire. Certain states might borrow more money, and tomorrow there might be problem of payments. Like similar problem payments is happening in the China. Many state governments in China are not able to pay the money which they borrowed for making huge buildings and investment in real estate. So a debt crisis has started in China. So similar, I think that is the major point of central government to be that they want to be economically prudent in nature. Economically prudent. So Kerala's case in Supreme Court, so it's going on arguing the NBC limit. Supreme Court has referred the issue to Constitutional Bench for an interpretation addressing broader implication for fiscal decentralization and central state relations, state-central relation in today's 2024 terms. So let's see what comes out of this. Calls for revisiting and strengthening Article 293. That's the wonderful part I am talking about, because as we advance, as the CGI statements came on the Aligarh Muslim University, which we had covered in the Daily Decodes, in this sense, as Supreme Court, as you know, we are in a changing time. What the Constitution, when it came, around the India's independence time, and today how the amendments has happened, and Constitution is like a living organism, how the society is evolving, like CGI statements that we are moving from a socialist to more liberal economy, and that is why the state or center cannot take any property for the community usage. There are multiple angles to it. So these are certain decisions which have been taken by Supreme Court in the last 1 week, which we covered in the Daily Decodes news. Similarly, the Supreme Court would also go into the nitty-gritties of this particular article. So suggested by Antasayanam Iyengar, this is also a commission like finance commission. A commission like finance could oversee borrowing related issues considering both state needs and national fiscal goals, that there can be commissions like this, like Antasayanam Iyengar commission, which can see to the separate needs of state and center. So guidelines for Article 293 Clause 4, transparency needs to be there. That's a clear procedure for loan approvals, or if there is a rejection from center. Consultative process, so it needs to be cooperative federalism between the state and center. So involves state consultation to promote a cooperative federal approach rather than a top-down approach that either you get it, either you don't get it. It would be the decision of the center. Equitable treatment, ensure uniform borrowing. So even if the state does not have the central government, for example, I'll give you, so currently we have a BJP led government at the center, but in that state, if it is not a BJP government, it is some other government also. Though when it comes to giving funds, it should not be discriminated that the central government will only give money or funds or loans to BJP states. That is what this point is talking about. I'm particularly taking the party name so that you can easily understand. So ensure uniform borrowing terms for all state to avoid bias. I'm not saying they are doing it. This is just to explain it to you. Okay. So I hope you've understood till here. Okay. Now, respect for fiscal autonomy, reasonable restriction that do not unduly restrict on state financial management. So, state financial management, it should not be restricted. They should be given autonomy and independence. So, the goal is implementing these guidelines, allow the center to exercise power under Article 293 Clause 4, fairly supporting both fiscal discipline and cooperative federalism, which I have already covered. Now, this is the mains question which you can go through, and lot of information which I have covered, you can use that to answer this question, and would be the PDF link is given in the description. In the tidbits, the first news, Justice Sanjeev Khanna would be the 51st CGI today. The tenure of Chandrachud Sir is over. And related to Justice Sanjeev Khanna, we had covered, how the CGI is chosen, the first judge case, second judge case, third judge case. In the previous Daily Decode session, you can go through them and complete those lectures. China-Indonesia signs deal 10 billion on green energy. So he was in Beijing, the Indonesian President Prabowo Subianto, and $10 billion worth of deal on green energy has been signed. Next is Saudi Arabia's army chief visit to Iran. So Saudi Arabia-Iran diplomatic relations are improving, specifically from 2023 when they restarted it, and they're talking about some defense ties, and this will put a lot of question from the Israel point of view and Abraham Accords point of view. Next is Taliban attends its maiden UN climate meet. So Taliban has not been recognized as the actual government or rulers of Afghanistan, but still they would be making their first mark at the UN climate meet, which would be happening in Baku, Azerbaijan in November this month. And in extra mile, you have declining health spending risk SDG goals. Please go through it. SDGs are almost coming to an end in 2020. So this is one article which you can go through. With this, we complete today's analysis. I hope that you understood a lot of things. If there's any question, please put them in the comment section. Do like, share this particular session with everyone. Take care and Jai Hind. Bye-bye.